Hey, what's up? This is Grady Allen from Anxious, and you are listening to The New Scene.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The New Scene. I am your host, Keith, and we're back with another brand new episode. And on the show this week, we have Marshall Gallagher of Teenage Wrist. Teenage Wrist just put out an excellent new LP called Still Love. It's great. They're great. And this conversation with Marshall is great. He was really nice. It's a nice conversation that spans the history of the band and a wide variety of other topics. That conversation is coming up shortly, but first, here's how you can support The New Scene. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at New Scene Pod. Shirts. We have shirts available at Death Wish Inc. Pick one up. It's a great way to support the show. Reviews. Give us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Hit that 5-star button. You can leave feedback on Spotify, and you can write a review on Apple Podcasts. Also, you can always reach me at newscenepod@iodinerecords.com. Also, don't forget to support Iodine Recordings. Garrison and Orange Island are playing a gig Friday, October 6th at the Middle East downstairs in Boston. That's with Pilot to Gunner, Sinaloa, and Not Bad, Not Well. That's the original Garrison lineup, and they haven't played in a long time. And this is an Orange Island reunion. They haven't played in a long time. Go check out that gig. It's going to be sick. Also, pre-order the new 7-inch from Garrison and Orange Island. Songs from a central Massachusetts mill town. The original idea for this split was conceived in 2003. Garrison covered an Orange Island song. Orange Island covered a Garrison song. But the split never saw the light of day. Well, it's here now, and it's out October 6th. Pre-order your copy today. It's out October 6th. Sign up for the Iodine Recordings Noise Cult. You'll get the next 6 releases from Iodine in deluxe variants with a ton of extras like free shipping and hand-numbered Obi strips. There's limited space in the Noise Cult, so sign up today while spots last. And sign up for the Iodine email list. You'll find out about everything first. For more information, head to the Iodine Instagram at Iodine Recordings or to the Iodine website at iodinerecordings.com. Also, don't forget to support this month's sponsor, New Morality Zine. That's right. NMZ is a Midwest-based zine and independent record label specializing in hardcore, post-hardcore, and alternative music. Pre-orders are up for Curse the Knives, There's a Place I Can Rest. That's out September 8th. Vinyl and merch bundles are available. The new single, Big Ol' House, just came out, and it's really good. Give it a listen. The cassette repress of Wish You Were Here by Demo Division is available. That's limited to 50 tapes, so pick it up soon. Stateside has tour dates this fall with Montclair to support their release, It's What We Do. Those tour dates kick off September 15th in San Diego. Also, NMZ has a second press of Far Out Hardcore by Spaced on orange cassettes. They're available now in the NMZ store. And speaking of Spaced, Lexi, the vocalist of the band, will be on this podcast in an upcoming episode. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget, you get 10% off any order in the NMZ web store with the code NEWSCENEPOD. That's all one word. For more information, head to the NMZ Instagram at New Morality Zine or check out their website at newmoralityzine.com. Okay, so here's a music recommendation for you. The band Peasant, coming to us all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. It's very vicious, very metallic hardcore, and you know I love that. So if you love it too, check them out. They've got music up on Spotify or your streaming service of choice. They've got videos up on YouTube, and they've got a new single and video coming out this Friday for their song Cape Death. Give it a listen. All right, so check back in with me in segment 3. I'll tell you everything that's going on with me, but right now, we are going to speak to Marshall Gallagher of Teenage Wrist. Enjoy. All right, we are here now with Marshall Gallagher. Marshall, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Marshall, it's great to have you here. You know, there's a lot of exciting things happening in your life. We have the Still Love LP from Teenage Wrist. It's out today as we record this, yes?
Yes, it's out today as of, 9 o'clock Pacific last night.
That's very exciting. Teenage Wrist has a pretty rich history, been doing a lot of great things. I've heard in advance of the record, and I absolutely love it. And Marshall, we're going to cover all that. But first, I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
Man, it's a bittersweet moment, I will say that, because album release day marks the end of one phase of the cycle. You know what I mean? Like the most fun part for me is making the record, so that's like officially over now. It's out in the world. You can't touch it. You can't, take anything back. The LPs are out for people to listen to on their turntables, and we're we're now thrown to the wolves and the haters on YouTube and stuff. And I try not to look at any of that, but it's a little sad, but it's also so exciting because everyone finally gets to hear it. And now begins the next phase, which is we get to play all these songs live.
When did production on this new record begin? When did it all start? And I'm talking like writing the songs.
Writing the songs, we started officially putting stuff down on quote unquote tape, I guess, early 2022, January. So Anthony and I went out to Yucca Valley, which is right outside of Joshua Tree, kind of a legendary spot for artists to go and fuck off to the desert and, just shut out the rest of the world and focus on making something cool. So we rented a little Airbnb out there, brought a mobile studio, and started hashing out some ideas.
Did you find that the remote location helped you guys creatively?
I think so, in a sort of unconscious way. Sometimes it's hard to focus when you're at the place where you record every day, or in your house recording stuff. It's a completely different, like, even just the level of noise outside, it's just like completely silent out there. Whereas even here, I'm sure maybe you can hear some of the background noise, just, traffic and fans. And I don't know if you can hear it, but it's a little bit revealing, I guess, like just, being able to be in your own thoughts and not have any distractions. It's a little uncomfortable at first, but I think it does help, at least for a while.
Yeah, Marshall, I was just thinking about this today. I was going to try an experiment. I live in New York City, which is noisy, as we know. So and in summer, there's all kind of noise. I have the window open and there's noise outside, or I have the air conditioner on and that's noisy. And I got into the bad habit of falling asleep with something on the computer. So there's noise from that. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about going to sleep with everything off and just seeing what happens. But I'm like scared of doing that.
Rightfully so. In New York, I feel like you're going to get almost more noise, if that makes sense, with nothing on. So it's just like the outside world pouring into your apartment. I'm assuming it's an apartment.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thing. See, I had to start incorporating noise pollution to even fall asleep.
Yeah, it's like you ever use the white noise apps? Or actually, a buddy of mine who I was just like sharing a room with on this tour that I'm currently sort of on right now has an app with different fan noises. Like, it's just like 5 or 6 different brands and speeds of fan. Which is
that's amazing.
Hilarious.
I've actually used a fan. You see, I wanted to get into the app and like, I don't know, waterfall sounds or something like that. But I'm like, I got a fan here. I use it anyway. I'll use that. Now I fall asleep to Twitch. So that can be trippy because you'll hear like a soft voice and someone playing a game and you wake up and you're like, wait, is someone here?
What game are you falling asleep to? This is going to let me know how batshit you are. Just So, you know.
Very bad shit, because it could be either Warzone or like NES classics. So it always like I always get woken up and I have to go push the volume all the way down and then get back into bed. But there's a couple late night streamers who stream Nintendo original 8-bit Nintendo games that can be relaxing.
That sounds actually very soothing.
Yeah, and they have like a soft voice, so and I'll just knock the volume all the way down to like 8, and that's good enough.
I love that. It's like falling asleep when you're a kid and, you know, you're at a sleepover and your friends are playing Nintendo and you're just kind of drifting off. That's lovely. I like that.
That's exactly it. I don't know what it is, but there's something about watching those games be run. It's just very, very comforting, which is probably everything you just described.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm, you know, I may try that.
Give it a shot. You'll like it. You'll learn a lot about the games too if you ever want to speed run them yourself.
It's been a really long time since I've like properly played a video game. So yeah, I mean, I could do a dive back into. I think it. I'd be a lot happier if it were like N64. I think
yes,
like, as some Zelda or, you know, something like I could watch anyone play any Zelda game for just days.
Yeah, I watched those. I watched someone stream the new Zelda game for like 80 hours. And don't worry, I'm not going to go off onto too much of a video game tangent here, everyone. Just bear with me for a second. But I did just finish a full 120-star run of Mario 64 for the first time in my life. It took me a year and a half to finish.
Oh my God, that's so satisfying.
Yeah.
And then did you do the thing? I'm sorry, we're fully going into video game rant now, but did you do the thing at the end where you shoot the cannon up to the top of the castle and it's like super anticlimactic? And like,
yeah, and Yoshi's there, and he's like, hey, we want you to keep playing the game even though you beat it all. Here's 100 lives, and then he jumps into the waterfall and disappears.
Yeah, and then you're supposed to just, do nothing? Like, I don't know.
I just ran around outside for like half an hour, and then I was like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, just flip around a little bit, celebrate.
Yeah, it felt like I really achieved something, and you know what? I did, because it's a hard game.
It is. It's very hard. I mean, I had to, I think, probably look up some strategy guide stuff the first time around, and I've only done the 120 thing once. I think that's all you need.
Yeah, you only need to do it once.
Yeah.
It was really frustrating. By the end, I was like, fuck this game. I can't do this anymore. I keep falling off the freaking carpet on the rainbow. I hate this. And then when I finished, I was like, oh, I love it.
That fucking carpet on the rainbow. Like video games were such a source of rage for me. Like growing up, I chucked so many controllers and just, I didn't ever break anything though. I wasn't like, I don't know. I didn't fuck myself over that hard. That's good. But tears were shed for sure.
Yeah. You don't want to smash up your stuff. That's where it gets weird.
Anyway.
All right. That ends the video game portion of the conversation, everybody. I'm moving back into music now. Okay. Thanks. So Marshall, where are you right now?
I'm for some reason, I don't know how this happened, but I'm actually in my apartment in Los Angeles.
Oh, really? So you said you were on kind of a tour. What's going on? Where are you playing? What are you doing?
So Anthony and I are currently playing in the backing band for Paris Jackson, who is on tour with Incubus and Bad Flower right now.
Really?
Yeah, and we had a couple of shows fall through, so they flew us home for 2 days, I think, total. And then, on a couple of days from now, I fly back to the East Coast, and we do 3 more weeks of that tour.
What do you and Anthony do in Paris Jackson's band?
He plays drums, and I play bass. I don't know how I got the bass job, but I did, and it's really fucking fun. I love playing bass.
And this is Paris Jackson, like Michael Jackson's kid?
Correct.
Holy cow.
Yeah, she's got a rock band. She is just going for it.
That's amazing. And you're out on tour with her and Incubus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How is that?
It's wild. It's so first of all, we had a similar run last year when Wrist opened for 311 for 3 weeks, but it was all middle of nowhere C markets where you would never even think that there was a giant music venue. So we're hitting a lot of Fargo, St. Cloud, Minnesota, like deep cuts. So that's strange. It's always weird to be in an arena in the middle of nowhere. And it's wild to see a band like Incubus just like still doing what they do. I mean, I think they've been a band for like 30 years or something. And literally my first concert ever, first proper concert, was Incubus and 311 at like a giant radio show.
Wow.
So, getting to be on the flip side of that now and, being a nobody first of three person, like watching them backstage every day is like, I don't know. It's, I can't really find the word to describe it right now, but I'm having a lot of like out of body experiences, if that gives you an idea.
Do you ever think that you died and just what you're experiencing right now is some sort of afterlife or different dimension? Because think about that. Your first gig is Incubus and 311. And I've heard you talk about 311 and, how they were an early inspiration for you and how much you dig them. And now you are playing gigs with them. Yeah,
I fully have that like just dissociation thing happening all the time. And I don't know if that's good. Like if that's a sign that, my life has kind of evened out and I'm just like super, super happy now. And like I've checked off so many things off my bucket list, or if I died sometime, I don't know, like, like a year and a half ago, because post COVID, it was like, maybe that could have happened. Like I was definitely down in the dumps at like fully fucking rock bottom. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe that happened.
How were you at rock bottom? What was going on?
I think there was a time release of like post-COVID side effects, just like really, really depressed, really anxious, really just kind of ready to give up on the whole making music for a living thing, which I've been lucky enough to do for as long as I have. So giving up wasn't necessarily like the worst thing in the world, and I could probably handle it even today if I had to do that, because it's a bonus, really. It's just like, how many people really get to do what they love for a living? It's like, I don't know. If I had to put a percentage on it, I would guess like 1% of people.
Yeah, it's not. Most people just go to a job that they don't like, and hopefully they get to do some things that they do enjoy with the money they get from that job.
Yeah, exactly. So like, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, and that's not really what was making me super depressed. It was like a lot of other stuff. But yeah, it was just just a huge, huge dip in my mental health.
Yeah, you know what? Me too. I actually, during the initial run of COVID, when we were all really stuck inside, that was fine because I work remotely anyway. Right. So it was, I don't know, it was like an excuse for me to not have to go anywhere or do anything, which I loved. But then when things started opening back up, I went through a breakup and that was really tough. And I don't know, there was like stuff to deal with for a long time after that personally. So that whole 2021 for me will forever be just a year where I'm like, oh, that was, well, good things happened that year, but bad things too.
Yeah, it was fully, the most extreme sides of that coin, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, same sort of deal. I was slowly but surely exiting a relationship, and, we were living together in like this tiny little apartment with an animal, and it was not, not anything that could have been sustainable, especially for as long as we did it. And, on top of that, it was everything post-COVID, and we tried to do this tour with Bad Flower, and I think it was a lot of really subconscious, like social anxiety, like coming to the surface and going from zero social interaction to like playing packed shows in, places we had never been before with that weren't necessarily super receptive to like what we were doing, and just being out on the road for like 6 fucking weeks chasing a bus. It was like I got back and I just imploded.
Yeah, you know what? Reintegrating into society has been tough. I lost my desire really to go to shows as much as I did and go see people as much as I did. And I forget until I talk to people on this show. They're like, we went through a pandemic and like everyone was inside for a year, and I feel like that too. And I'm like, oh, I thought it was just me. Right. So it's been it's been a slow process to like slowly get back to normal. And only now am I making myself get out more and like go to shows more and just try to be part of society more.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those you don't really realize what you've got till it's gone type of situations. And I fully had to just like force myself to get out and be social again. But now that I have, it's like, okay, I'm getting like way more comfortable with this, and I'm happier, I think, than I've been in a long time.
So you became the main frontman for Teenage Wrist on Earth is a Black Hole. That came out in 2021. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
When did that record come out in 2021?
Oh, I think it was February. Wait, no, that's not right. That can't be right, because it was definitely during the pandemic. So, so it was 2020. No, that actually does. I would have to probably look on Spotify or something that tracks our progress. But yeah, I do think it was February 2021.
Okay. So yeah, that must have been crazy, right? Because you're thrust into the main frontman position of the band. We have this new record with you in February of 2021. And then 1 month later, it's like, hey, the music industry is gone now. Good luck.
So yeah, that's the timeline I was having trouble putting together, because 2020 was the year that everything fucked off. So we had like a good, solid, 6 months or something where we were kind of in and out of sort of making the record.
Even now, I'm confusing 2020 and 2021. My brain is forever scrambled for that period of time.
Right. It was just a time vortex, and like everything just sort of disappeared and molded into one strange year.
So how long were we sitting on Earth is a Black Hole? Did you have to hold it for a while, hoping that the industry was going to open back up?
Not really, no. We actually made the decision with our label to just push it out, and we tried to set up like a pretty long runway for the singles, just to, maximize like the sort of anticipation, I guess, and see how long we could run before like, shows started coming back and stuff like that. But, at the end of the day, we decided that it was better to put a record out, I guess, while everyone was like, because everyone still was consuming a lot of music. It's just, live shows weren't happening. So we figured that might be like a, even an upside, where like everybody needs entertainment. Everybody needs art right now more than ever, probably. So we took the gamble, thought that like if we put out the record, then sure, we can't tour on it right away, but maybe fans will take a little bit of a deeper dive into it and share it more, and maybe it would get a little bit more traction than it normally would. And that turned out to be true. That turned out to be a thing, because we didn't get to tour on it really as like a headlining band until over a year later, and the response was like insane. It was like all of a sudden, like we went from headlining shows in 2018 to pretty much no one, and then just doing support tours for years and not having any idea like who was listening. Like it could have been no one, and it, like we wouldn't have known. But then all of a sudden, like we're headlining shows, and we've got nearly sold out shows in New York and LA and Denver, and just like complete surprise of people coming out of the woodwork. Like we had hundreds of people show up in like Columbus, Ohio, and we were like, wait, when did we become a band?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So you're playing these gigs, right? And you're saying not as many people were coming out in the support gigs or the headlining gigs. Like how many people are we talking on an average?
Well, we didn't really do a big run of headlining shows until 2022.
Mm-hmm.
But we, before we start, so the first couple of like actual big tours we did were like first of three or main support ish, or like, somewhere in the middle of four for Pianos Become the Teeth, World is a Beautiful Place, Citizen, And then we ended up going out with Thrice in the Bronx. So these were shows that like we had no idea who was coming out for us, because the venues would fill up for these headlining bands, but no one was really reacting to what we were doing. No one was really buying all that much merch, like we had no gauge of whether or not people gave a shit, because we were just a support act for so long.
Wow. So then you started headlining and people showed up.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. I mean, I do think we can attribute a lot of it to COVID, though, because people had no choice but to sit down and listen to our record.
Yeah, it can be hard to gauge sometimes. Like my band will play a show and it seems like there isn't that many people there, and the people that are there like maybe aren't that interested. And I'm like, oh man. But then you go to the merch table and like there's like some healthy sales, and like 2 or 3 people come up to you and say like, hey, that was great. And you're like, wow, okay. So I don't know, maybe people are just like figuring it out or taking it in.
Yeah, I think it does take a long time for stuff to settle in, and for people to also become comfortable with being really into a band. I think there's like this weird trial period where like people are starting like testing to see if you're going to be a band that like, they can become really into, and a band that they can stick with, you know what I mean? Cause like, and it also might just be like the style of music that we play. It's like people didn't start moshing until last year. Like, I don't know. People like, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this correctly so I don't sound like a fucking asshole, but people like, so many people were just sitting there with their arms crossed for so long, and then out of nowhere, like it was like an explosion of like people going crazy,
Yeah.
And it's like, we didn't change. Nothing happened. It was just people had to kind of sit with it for a little bit, I think.
No, you're right, because I do this too. Like I'll be like, oh no, I'm at capacity right now. I can't enter, or I can't welcome any new bands into my life.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, or just, yeah, or I talk to a lot of bands like your band, Marshall. They're around, right? And I figure they're this brand new band that I'm talking to who's been around for a month and they're exploding. But then it's like, no, like this band has been around since 2015. Where have I been the whole time? Where have you been the whole time? Why haven't I heard this before then? So it's just like, I think it's just this swelling, right? You keep grinding away. You grow, the audience grows with you, and then at some point it just hits.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it passes a certain level of like objective quality, then it's just a matter of persistence. It's just a matter of sticking around long enough so that people know who you are and feel like they can be, part of something, I guess.
Absolutely.
Part of the movement.
Yeah, people get invested in the band and you as people, and the music becomes part of their lives. It's like a growing story together.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
In 2019, just when things are really starting to get moving for the band, Cam leaves, the original frontman. Yes?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What happened?
Well, at some point during the touring process, I know, like Cam got a little burnt out because he's been touring with his band, the Chain Gang of 1974, and then with us for years and years and years. And he just needed a change in his personal life. Didn't want to be on the road nearly as much as he was going. And rightfully so, because especially when you're not making any money touring, which we weren't, we were spending money to tour. And we still kind of currently are. We're not like coming home with massive paychecks in our pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he kind of had enough of that grinding, and he got married, and, as far as I know, he's wanting to start a family and just like not switch careers, but like, just shift a little bit into something that is a little bit more sustainable. And like, we couldn't have seen the future coming for the band. And even still, we don't know. It's not like this is our day job. We still have a million other hustles. So, he was kind of like, well, this can be a side project, where we just don't really tour that much and we make records, or I can exit the band and you guys can push forward without me. And we all kind of came to the decision that it it would be a little bit of a shame and a waste if we just didn't move on the momentum that we were getting. You know, we had just put out Counting Flies. I had started writing some new stuff, and I was like, I don't want to stick a fork in this thing just yet. I want to see what we can do to the best of our ability. Like he's had a lot of success with his music up until, basically now. Like I haven't really with my own personal stuff. It's been a lot of under the radar punk bands and things that didn't really pop off until Teenage Risk. So I was like, no, I got to go for this, and
right.
There are no hard feelings. And, sure, it got a little emotional. We didn't talk for a minute, and, there was some there were some disagreements over how to like let people know that he was leaving and, what we wanted to say. So it was weird for a minute, but at some point during the pandemic, like we just kind of reached out to each other. Like he put a record out and I was like, yo, this record's phenomenal. Like, sorry about all the weird shit that happened. And now we're just like friends again and collaborators. And it's like, we realized that it was all really fucking dumb, like why we were a little bit salty.
Yeah.
So, it just kind of evened itself out.
That's the thing though. Even if it's an amicable end, I think there's still things to sort through. Like, I think that's unavoidable.
Definitely. Like, everybody has their reasons.
So Cam still does music. Does he just not do it full time, or? I
mean, he does it full time. It's tough to actually quantify that, like, because he still does release records with two of his projects. He has the Chain Gang of 1974 and he has Heavenward, which is his rock leaning project, which he just put out a record and I played a shitload of guitar on it. So it's, he's still doing the thing that he loves to do, and it's getting a lot of attention. It's a really cool record. So I guess you could say he does it full time. I don't know. But he's like very into design world right now. He's doing a lot of merch, a lot of graphic design leaning stuff, like way more in the visual area of things. So that's his bread and butter as far as I know, but I couldn't tell you, exactly where, like how he spends all his time,
Yeah. Do you ever, like I do this sometimes, let's say I'm working on something with somebody, right? And they're like, oh, I can't do it anymore. I'm doing this other thing. And then I see them doing these other things and I'm like, oh, well, you have time for those other things, but you didn't have time for my thing. Do you ever like get into that territory? I do that sometimes, but then I just shut it down because I'm like, you can't take people's inventory. You can't make them do things they don't want to do. Just focus on what you're doing.
Yeah. I don't see that, especially, I mean, with him, I don't, because like, I know like what his goals are, we were very clear that like this was, it was all because of the touring thing, really. It was just wearing away on, I mean, all of us, but he was just like, yeah, I'm cashed out of that. So I know that he's not out there doing 6-week runs as like a support band, So like if I saw him do that, I'd be like, huh, okay.
Yeah.
This is interesting. But I mean, even if he did, I wouldn't give a shit, like that was a completely different time in all of our lives. We like so much emotional change and growth happened for all of us through the pandemic. So nothing would irk me or surprise me now. I would just be like, you know what? We weren't ready for it at the time. And I can say that about bands, creative projects, friendships, relationships. Like I wasn't ready for any of it, and now on the other side, I'm like, okay, no, I can hold this down because I'm a different person.
And that's good that Cam was like, hey, you guys, if you want to keep going, just go and run with it. Cause he could have been like, oh, I don't want there to be a band if I'm not in it, or you guys have to change your name, or like any of that weird stuff. Like none of that happened. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he pretty much gave us his blessing and said, yeah, take it and run. So I'm grateful for that. I mean, and he was just so much of the driving force behind where we ended up and what we were doing. And, he put us on the map, and I am forever grateful for that. I don't think we could have done what we did without him at all.
Right. It was part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was fairly easy for you to step into the role, right? Because you were already doing backups, you were already doing vocals on songs. I mean, was it difficult at all to just step into that role?
I wouldn't say it was incredibly difficult. Like, yeah, I was singing on some stuff. I had a few songs where I did some lead vocals, but I had no idea who I was as a singer and a frontman, and I still don't. I'm still charting that territory. Like, I'm still very much coming into my, like pushing the limits of what I can do vocally, and I still hate it. Like, I've never considered myself a singer, and to this day, like, I listened to the record today, and I was like, God, I fucking wish my voice sounded a little bit cooler, like. But that's something I've come to accept about just creating in general, is that, like, it's never the way you want it to be, and the only way to get to where you want to be is to push through the shit that you don't want to do and to let it take its own course.
Exactly. See, I think it's healthy if you have those thoughts and just continue to work through them, right? Because I listen to Still Love, and I'm like, wow, the production is spot on, you're spot on, like, everything sounds so good. But you're listening to it, and you're like, oh, I wish my voice sounded cooler.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you hit that point where you're like, yeah, I fucking nailed it, like, I'm just the best vocalist that I've ever heard, like, there might be something wrong, like, you might be an asshole.
Yeah, you got to keep I think you got to keep that level of humble and just be like, I did a sufficient job, or I did a good job,
Yeah, you can be proud of it.
Yeah, you don't want to go out there telling people like, yeah, man, I fucking killed that.
Yeah, we fucking rock. Like, you can say that to yourself, and you can be like, yeah, I finally did something fucking cool. But yeah, if you're like, all up your own ass, like, it's just chances are it's not very good. Like, you have to be really something special, like, you have to be a Liam Gallagher or a Billy Corgan or just a once in a lifetime sort of performer, to really, like, to have that attitude.
Yeah, it's a certain type of person, and it's not me, but Liam Gallagher is a great example. Like, he can just say whatever, basically, and it's still cool.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
It's like a superpower.
It is, and it's an equal amount of disgust and reverence whenever I, like, read one of his dumbass tweets or something. I'm like, God, he's so fucking cool. I hate him.
How long have you been living? You moved to Los Angeles from Colorado?
Yes, I've been in LA for 10 years now.
So now you're an official Los Angelesan?
An Angelino, I think, is the proper term for that.
Yeah, I just made up a term there.
I wouldn't call myself that just yet. I think I got to put in more years than I grew up in Colorado for me to. So I by the time I'm 50, if I'm still in Los Angeles, I will be an Angelino.
There you go. What prompted the move to Los Angeles?
Whew. If I'm being completely honest, a breakup. I was kind of treading water in Colorado, and I'd been thinking about maybe moving to LA because a couple of my buddies were doing it. Like, I had just started playing with this band called 303. They had relocated to LA. Cam was somebody who I met in Colorado and ended up moving to LA. Yeah, a few of my friends were just, kind of shifting in that direction, and something happened where I was on tour and, like, the relationship that I was in ended, and in that moment I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Now is the time. I'm going to move to LA. And I did it as quickly as I possibly could. And I was probably running away from, some stuff for sure. But I was also like, you know what? I've been thinking about this for a minute, and this seems like a good opportunity to just try it.
Yeah, you might as well. I did the same thing from Philadelphia to New York. Well, I had a job offer through my company in New York, but there was also a lot I was trying to run away from. So, and I always wanted to live here. So I was like, why not? Let's go.
Yeah. If that door gets opened, might as well take it.
So did Teenage Risk get started in LA?
Yes. Yeah. So that probably about the second year or so that I was here, Cam and I started just jamming, just me and him. I would bring over my 2009 MacBook with my shitty little one-channel interface and just record demos. The first demo we recorded sounded somewhere between like rock and roll era Ryan Adams and 9 Inch Nails. It was really cheesy, but it was kind of cool. We were like, maybe we got something here. We kept churning out tunes. They started sounding more and more and more like Swerve Driver, Catherine Wheel, stuff in that lane.
Yes.
And about 4 songs in, we recorded a song called Afterglow, and that was the thing. That was the one. We were like, okay, this is a band now. We should write an EP or something. And we had no idea who was going to be the drummer, whatever. And his management at the time was like, hey, this is a good band. Like, you should record it. So it was a fun little side project that turned into a real ass thing. And within 3 years, we were signed to Epitaph.
So Cam already had management, and they're like, hey, record this. That's a good sign.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool to have that support. And it's not like they were giving us money, but we didn't really have to spend much money because we did a lot of the recording ourselves. We did bass, guitar, and vocals in my apartment.
Ah.
I was living in like this little duplex thing in Koreatown with my friend Casey. Mm-hmm. And he had a little studio set up because he was producing a bunch of like electronic music. And over the course of like several weeks, we just, put guitar amps and bass amps in the living room, and he had his little studio nook. And I mean, it was really loud, and we didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we somehow made it work. We shelled out a little bit to record drums at a real spot, and mixing and mastering were done by somebody else. But yeah, we did the meat of it ourselves, and that became Dazed.
Oh, nice. How soon? So I guess a couple years or a year or a couple years after that, we get the attention of Epitaph. How does that happen? Do they see you? Do they hear you? Did you send stuff to them?
So that was a connection between Nick, who works for Teamwork and was Cam's old manager, and our A&R Chris at Epitaph. So he had just moved over there, I think from Fearless or something like that, and they had just known each other through I don't even know what, but the some demos got sent over. I think we had just recorded a demo version of Stone Alone, and yeah, it just it came together really fast. We played like maybe 3 or 4 shows before we were signed, and I think Chris came out to a couple of those, and yeah, we were the first band that he signed actually on Epitaph.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it seems like the tides just lined up perfectly, right? Your friend, your connection is with Epitaph. We're starting this exciting new band. Everything lines up. He's looking to sign someone new. Done. Just like that.
Just like that. It was very quick. I didn't realize how quick things like this went. I'd never really signed a real record contract before. And when it happened, it was surreal, but it was also like a little anticlimactic there for a second. Cause this is going to sound so lame, but when you grow up listening to bands, seeing bands at kind of hitting their peak, and there are certain labels that you really look up to, and you start to develop this certain idea in your head of what it looks like and feels like to be in a signed band and touring, and I grew up with that in my head for years, from middle school until basically until like this happened, basically until we got signed. And I was like, okay, this is it. Here comes the wave. And then it wasn't like that at all. Like I was like, when are we going to start like making money? Like we got this, we got more money than I've ever seen in my life to make a record, but then it was gone. like we fucking spent it all just making the record. And then we had to go tour, and we had to get tour support from the label. And at one point we like ran out of money on the road. And I was like, wait, like at what point does this start sustaining itself? And I'm still kind of at that point. And now I have a much more realistic version in my head of how it goes. And it's hilarious what my high school self thought in comparison to this.
How old were you when initially when things got going with Epitaph?
I think I was like 30. I think I had just turned 30.
So even at that point, you thought like, hey, we're going to be making money off this thing. I can like live off of this.
I mean, I don't know, like living off of it was, I don't think that was necessarily an expectation, but definitely like it was going to be the main thing, like the main focus.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing, how much money really needs to come in and out of a project like this to make it work. And I was like, oh, no, we're still going to be like even, spending a lot of our own money to make this happen. And it's still very much a labor of love, and no one's going to carry us through this. Like we have to continue to grind and grind and grind to make this thing happen. And we're not going to see anything really super meaningful in the financial department, because we're a baby band. We don't, I had a very unrealistic expectation or picture of like how long it takes to break a band. And we're still not broken, like we have a shitload of streams and a shitload of listeners, and, we can sell pretty decent amounts of tickets in certain cities, and it's still just not even close to what it was in the early 2000s when I was like really at my peak of like consuming music.
Right. Who knows if it ever will be again?
I don't expect it will be, especially with how things are going with streaming royalties and, just how the music industry is looking in general.
Right. Yeah, but no, that's interesting to hear from your perspective too, because I thought like, oh, with a label like Epitaph, like, you're going to get a big push and maybe there's more money in terms of like, tour support and that type of thing. But no, I'm listening to you say you still have to do the grind. You still have to spend your own money. You still have to get out there. And look, you signed with the label in what, like 2017, 2018? You're saying just now in 2023, you're starting to see more of a bump with the headlining gigs, right?
Yeah. I mean, and we're on the fast track. We've been on the fast track, I think. Like shit just kind of started happening because people dug the music,
Yeah.
Like we sold a few records. To this day, I don't really have a realistic number in my head. So like how many records we've sold, but it doesn't matter. Like,
right.
We're at this point, we're still trying to remain relevant. Shit just moves so fast now, and a new brilliant band is coming out every week.
Yep.
And so we're still fighting for attention. And I'm so incredibly grateful, like for the attention and the amount of money that, the label has put into us is not anything to, shake a stick at or whatever. Like it's significant, but it doesn't mean that we're rich people. Like,
no.
Like, we have day jobs.
Yeah. I didn't realize until I started doing this podcast that, a lot of bands, I assume the band is all they do. It's not. Like I'll talk to them and they're like, no, I don't do this full time, or I do these other things. Like there's just not a lot of money in it.
No, there really isn't. It's not like, I don't really understand how people do it full time. The only people that I know that do it full time are like legacy bands or bands that had like a platinum single at one point and the royalties are still rolling in. It's like you had to have broken at a certain point. Like I don't know that I can't say that. I'm just speaking for me and the people that I know, because obviously there are bands that are like rock bands even that are wildly successful right now, but I just don't really understand how that happens.
Yeah, of all the bands I grew up with and saw and everything, I can only think of one where the people lived off the band, but they were around for like almost 20 years, and still people weren't living in like mansions. It was just like a regular life job type of thing.
Yeah, and nobody needs the mansion. Nobody, I mean, even really, like, I feel like people making that kind of living, like where it's just, it's nice. It's comfy. You get to live off the royalties or the merch revenue or whatever. That's a fucking miracle. Like, and if you've got that, you should be so grateful. And
yeah,
I'm grateful that the thing sustains itself, and we can go on tour and we don't have to hemorrhage money anymore.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. Though I'll mention I'm in a band, they ask about that, and I say if you're not losing money, you're ahead of most people. If you're just breaking even.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm on a band that's on a label for the first time in my life, and I'm 41 years old now. And really, that just opens doors, like you can get merch printed, you can get records printed, and you get on better shows. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. I don't know what label you're on, but it seems like there are only a handful of labels too out there right now where you can be on it and it actually means something. It's actually like, oh, these guys have a little bit of clout, whatever that fucking means.
Yeah, if you're on a label like Epitaph where there's serious name recognition, that goes a long way too.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, just being able to say that, people are like, oh, you must be legit, and I'm like, I'm not, but like it's fun to say.
See, I think you're legit because you're on Epitaph. It's working.
Hey, thanks. I mean, I think I'm somewhat legit.
Yeah, you've paid your dues. You're doing things. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it took me many, many years, but and like to speak to your point about being on a label for the first time and being in your 40s, like that's something I think that how do I put this? It's not something you'd expect, right? Like you hear about any artist in the music industry, just specifically music, and there's this expectation that you're going to be in your 20s or in your even, straight out of high school or something.
Right.
But like, I mean, I'm 36 and I'm just now hitting my stride as a musician that maybe might be like in a very small way recognizable. Like I'm not a household name, obviously, but occasionally people would be like, oh, you're that guy. Like on the Paris Jackson gig, like some guy was like, hey, you're the guy from Teenage Risk. And I was like, holy shit. Like the one guy in the crowd knows who I am. Like, that's crazy. But I'm old as shit, and like, I never thought that it was going to be that way. And people still don't think that. People still don't like really realize how old we all are.
Right.
Like people have this fixation on being young and doing things when you're young. And I just, now that I'm here and I'm way past that, I don't get it. Like I almost won't even listen to a band if they're in their early 20s. I'm like, psh, what do you guys know?
No, I know what you mean. It's like, it seems to be two tracks, right? Like you get started when you're 17 and you break when you're 24 and then you're just in it for a long time. Or people like us where we're doing it for a long time and then things kind of happen later, which is what's happening for me. Not that I'm any notable figure or anything, but I thought I was done with music for a while. Like my life was really messy. I wasn't doing anything. And then I started doing this podcast, and then I joined a new band that's on a label. So things are just starting to happen now. And that's enough. That's enough because I thought I was done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, if you're doing it for any other reason than just to do it, that's like, maybe you should do something else.
Yeah. Like you said, it's a labor of love. Mm-hmm. Like this is what I do. This podcast is all I do. The music is all I do. And it doesn't matter if I'm making money and it doesn't matter if I'm signed or not signed, or like in some capacity, that's what I need to do, because I'm happiest when I'm creating things, however big or small they are, and putting them out there into the world. Is that how you operate as well?
Absolutely. And, to say something like you just said, like you're done with music, like that shouldn't be a thing. That shouldn't even be in your brain. You're always going to do it, right? I'm always going to do it, no matter if we're signed or, making money or on tour or whatever. But it took this long to realize that, because I started out with such a delusional thing in my head where it was like, I'm going to do this for a living. And if I don't do it by this age, I'm calling it, like, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah. That is a silly way of thinking, because I used to do that too.
It's insane.
You don't ever have to stop. There's no cap.
Yeah. I think that's born out of insecurity and this weird focus that the music industry has on people being young.
Right. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
I think now more than ever, that stuff doesn't matter as much, or maybe it just doesn't matter to me because I'm older, or maybe both. I don't know. But like when I discover a cool new band like yours, I'm not like looking to make sure they're 25 or under, or like checking some boxes. I listen to the music, and if I like the music, then it's good. I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's probably not the way that a lot of people are viewing it, but that's the way I operate. Yeah. I mean, I don't really care who it is or where they're from, as long as the music is rad.
So we have the new record out, Still Love. Have the accolades come pouring in? Are we checking YouTube comments to make sure people are saying nice things? What feedback have you gotten so far, if any?
Well, it's only been out for, a few hours now, at least in the US, and it seems to be overwhelmingly positive. It depends on what website you check, though. Like Instagram is like a outpour of love and support and fire emojis and just so much positivity. It's crazy. But you pop over to YouTube and people are like, that's where people really start to get mean. And then God forbid you read some of the blog posts. Like we had a review on Lamb Goat, which I love, and it's specifically dedicated to heavy music, it seems like, and we're on the pretty light side of heavy music. So I mean, we put out that song with Essay from 311, and it was like, I don't know, people were saying some weird, mean shit.
Well, that's what you go to Lamb Goat for. Like I specifically read the comments section sometime, just to see the crazy things that people say. Like that's their bread and butter.
Yeah. I wonder who these people are. Are they actual people, or are they robots, or like, I just don't get it. I don't really understand the motivation behind leaving a really, really negative comment on anyone's art, or anything in general. Like the people that go to like a restaurant and leave a shitty review on Yelp. Like, I don't understand. Like, just don't go again.
Yeah. It's I think it's a lot of angry Northeast people. I know because I am one. I was one. Like I used to be that angry kid on the internet, like talking shit about everything. And I don't do that anymore, but I have my moments. But it's like,
okay, as a former angry kid on YouTube, where does that come from? Like, what made you do that?
I think that's a good question. I've thought about this. Oh, you know what it is? I wasn't doing anything, and I wanted to be doing things. So I guess I felt empowered to decide what was good or not publicly and like talk shit. But now that I'm actually doing stuff, I would never like I don't know, if you posted a video, God, like imagine me going there and being like, hey, Marshall, this sucks. Like artists don't do that to each other. Like people who are doing things don't do that to each other. It's usually like just people who are consuming it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's completely out of the artist dialogue.
Yeah.
We don't review each other's shit. We if we're going to talk shit about something, we do it at band practice.
Yeah. Like
always. You know what I'm noticing? Every single negative thing that's come out of my mouth it comes from insecurity. it comes from jealousy or something in that vein of emotions where I'm like a little bit resentful. Like, why is this band bigger than we are? You know, like this record's not that great, you know?
Exactly.
We did a cooler thing, you know, like this fucking suck, like, or I don't get it, you know? And it, you know, it's just a reflection of my own bullshit always.
Yeah, I do that too, because I'll be like, oh, this person can go on this show, but not my show. Oh, I see what. And then, but I just quickly shut that down because I'm like, it's just not time yet. Stop it. It's just not time yet.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on in somebody else's life. You have no idea what they're doing at any given time or why. Like, I don't know. I think that people who leave comments like this, you know, the trolls that we're talking about, they're so bummed out in their own lives, and they legit have no idea how it feels to receive those kinds of comments.
Well, that's the thing. They've never made anything. In most cases, they've never made anything and put it out there into the world to be judged by others. So I think if they were in that position, they would have a different perspective.
Yeah, 100%.
So what could people say bad about you? I don't know. The band, the production is great. The band is great. I like everything you guys are doing. What could they possibly say?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it just doesn't connect with some people, you know? It's like people can always find something to nitpick or something that they don't connect with that they think was the wrong call, or they want to hear something more similar to something that we did earlier that they really dug, and we're not doing that anymore. So they're like, oh, well, you know, this sucks. I wouldn't have done it this way. We draw a lot of inspiration from 90s and 2000s bands, and I think a lot of people would characterize that as nostalgia, which is, you know, it's not wrong. We're just old. Like, you know, like you're a product of your environment, and having grown up in the 90s and early 2000s, when I go to write a piece of music, that's just what comes out. That's just the unfiltered, you know, it's not like I'm going down Spotify playlists and being like, I want to sound like this and I want to sound like this, and you know, this is what I'm going for. I'm not going for anything. Like we had a comment about the essay feature being a nostalgia grab and how that was super lame, and I was like, yeah, but they don't know that like this is literally one of the most important artists of my entire life. So like they're saying it's a nostalgia grab, but for me it's a literal dream come true.
Yeah. So
like it's just like, I don't know. People just have no fucking idea. And that's okay. That's fine.
Right. You're still going to do what you're doing.
Yeah. I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for the people, doing it for A, myself, B, for the people that like it.
So you said you actually did a collaboration with 311?
Yeah. We have a song out on, not the whole band, just SA, one of the vocalists. Yeah, he did a whole verse on Dark Sky. He like basically co-wrote that with us. Like he did his own verse and his own bridge. And one of the members of their team who we met while we were on tour co-wrote the song as well. This guy Evan, who's been just in our corner for so long now. He was just a fan and basically brought us on to the tour and like, you know, put us in the ear of 311. So yeah, it's another one of those things like we were talking about earlier where it's completely out of body, and I'm not sure I believe that it's actually happening.
That's amazing. Do you reach out to them? Like, do you say, hey, would you be interested in doing this? Like, how does it work?
Sort of. For a few of the features, it was that. Like for the, I don't ever phrase it as, would you like to be featured on this song, though? It's more like, hey, we have this blank space in a song. I don't know what to do with it. Do you want to take a stab at it? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in most cases, it comes back. And it's like, okay, yeah, this is great. This is perfect. You know, so, and all of it, not all of it, but most of these features were done remotely because, you know, SA lives hours away. Soft Cult is from Canada. Like, you know, my buddy Dave, who's used to be in Fear Before the March of Flames, is now in my other band, Memory Drip, lives in Colorado. So, I mean, so much of it was just like sending wave files back and forth.
So you send it to SA and say, hey, do you want to do something here? He sends it back to you and he has a part in there?
Yeah, basically. I mean, we weren't even, like, we had met and we knew, we were aware of each other.
Yeah.
But all the communication pretty much was through Evan, who's the other co-writer, and, is deep in that camp. So he was the one kind of facilitating everything. And yeah, it just seemed to happen out of nowhere. It's like, hey, I sent it to him and I was like, do you have any ideas for this? Like, do any of the guys want to, see if they are interested in doing this? And then, like, no guarantees, no speculation. And then all of a sudden I just get a text out of nowhere with, like, with a wave file that says SA vocal on it. And I'm like, holy shit. This actually happened. Like, this is insane.
Wow. Do they send, like, the lyrics too, so you know what to put in the booklet? Like, how does that work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, once we locked it in, then it was like, okay, what are the lyrics? What are the splits? SA came down and did the video with us.
Oh, great!
So much fun. Like,
wow.
He's just such a rad dude and such a pro.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, when I was listening to it, I didn't realize it was S.A. Martinez from 311. Because I'm just, I see Teenage Wrist, S.A. Martinez. Cool collaboration.
Yeah, it was. It was, I don't know what else to say about it other than holy fuck, so weird.
Yeah, it's just nice when the worlds collide, everything lines up, and you get to work on those things. I mean, it's a great situation all around.
Feels like we're writing something. It feels like whatever we put out into the universe right now is going to come back positive. So we're doing everything we can. We're throwing Hail Marys everywhere. We're doing shit that may or may not work, musically at least.
Well, I think it's working. So keep doing what you're doing. But listen, we have the Still Love LP out right now, today, as we record this, and everybody, by the time this episode airs, it's going to be out there everywhere in the world. So make sure you pick up a copy or listen to it. But Marshall, what do we have coming up? Where can we hear you? Where can we see you?
So let's see. Unfortunately, we don't have a tour right now in this moment, but September 5th, we start a full North American tour. It starts in Santa Ana, goes around the country, ends in LA. We're going to a lot of places, some familiar, some strange. And that's for like a month and a half, September to October. Hopefully we're going to wherever you are. I mean, we're going to Brooklyn. So like you're, I don't know, you should come.
That's where I'm at. Let's do it.
Killer.
Who's the tour with?
So we're taking out this band called Spiritual Cramp, who are just a rad punk band that I've been introduced to in the past couple of months. It was like, found them on Spotify, and I was like, I wonder if these guys would be interested in touring with us. And we put it out there, and they were like, yeah, we're putting out a record too. So they're putting out a record, we're putting out a record. And then on different legs of the tour, we have Initiate, really cool hardcore band, Trauma Ray, which is kind of more in the heavy shoegaze lane. They're from Texas. And Slow Joy is on a leg. And then Heavenward, Cam's band, is doing the last 2 dates with us. So it's going to be a really, really cool lineup, no matter where you're at. And after that, we're talking about UK and Europe. So I hope everyone out there gets to finally see us. We haven't been to the UK since 2018, and we're finally kind of making moves to get out there again. So that's very exciting.
That's awesome. Have you played with Cam since he left? Like his band and your band or anything like that? Not
live. We've been in the studio together quite a bit, but yeah, we haven't been on stage together since 2019.
So that'll be a trip, right?
Yeah, super trip.
What do you think? Like Cam guest vocal spot while you guys are playing live or something? Have we thought about that? Have we talked about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's going to happen for sure. At least I hope. I don't know. I think that's probably a given. But yeah, I mean, we'll try and get all the guests out if they're around. We're definitely going to, hit up SA for the Los Angeles show, see if he wants to roll through. Unfortunately, Soft Cult is on tour. Well, I mean, fortunately for them, but unfortunately for us, when we're in Toronto, they're not. So I think probably we're going to get Dave out for the Denver show. All the homies are going to come sing with us.
I like that. It sounds like everybody still gets along. That's good. That's important, right?
Yeah. We're putting nothing but positivity out right now. We're getting it all back. So hopefully it continues that way.
Well, Marshall, I love the band. I love the new record. I love everything you guys are doing. So keep doing it. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
It's my pleasure, man. Thank you for listening and for taking the time.
And there you have it. Marshall Gallagher. Excellent conversation. I'm really digging Teenage Wrist. I just sat here and listened to the Still Love LP, the whole thing again. And it's rare for me to sit down and listen to a whole record and just listen to it. Honestly, because I'm always working and my ADD-addled brain is always running around, jumping from thing to thing. But really good record. And just a nice conversation with Marshall, spanning different topics, talking about navigating the confusing music business, trying to figure things out, and some gaming conversation, of course. I love that. I love when that is mixed in. But he was nice. The band is really good, and I recommend them to you. So check it out. Thank you so much, Marshall, for coming on the show. So let's check in. How are we doing? I am doing pretty well. The Darling Fire originally had some gigs planned for this weekend in Long Island and Philadelphia. Those ended up getting canceled. Jolie and Geronimo from the Darling Fire, their dog is in the hospital. It's been in the hospital, so they weren't able to leave it alone because of its condition. So we had to cancel the shows, and it was not an easy decision to make. And we were really bummed out. So I apologize to anyone who was coming to see us and to everyone who helped set up the shows. The Saturday show is continuing without us. The Sunday show we had to cancel, but hopefully we will get into Long Island and Philadelphia to play again soon. So things have calmed down a bit for me. So I'm just taking some much needed time to relax. I have free time, which I have not had in a long time. So I cleaned my entire apartment. I'm talking mopping floors, wiping off counters. I scrubbed the tub. It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on in here. And it feels really good. I got to do this more often. I think I'm going to do it more often because it didn't take as much time as I thought. It's very tiring, though. It's very tiring. And besides that, my only plan this weekend was to sit down and intentionally try to get addicted to the game Elden Ring. And you know what? I've succeeded. I'm hooked. I got the PlayStation 5 back in February, and I started playing Elden Ring, but I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't know where I was going, and I just, I got scared of it. It's kind of overwhelming at first, so I put it down for a long time and played other stuff. But then I watched a guy on Twitch who I watch every day stream the game again, and I was like, this looks so great. I have to get into this game, deep into this game. And now that I've got the time, I've done it, so I'm starting to figure things out. I've killed my first few bosses. This is my first FromSoft game I've ever played, so it's just really, really fun. I was up till 1 a.m. Friday night trying to kill a boss, drinking Mountain Dew. I felt like I was 16 years old again. It was great. So just taking this weekend to chill out and laze about and do things I want to do, and it feels really good. I'm sitting here. It's Sunday. I got the window open. There's a nice breeze coming in. It's not too hot. August is almost over. September and October are almost here. That's the best time of the year. I can't wait. There's plenty to look forward to, both in life and this show. We've got most of the year booked up, and we've got some killer guests coming up. So exciting times all around. So that's it. That's it for this week. I'm doing great. I hope everybody out there is doing great as well. So we are going to end the show with a song called Hope to See You Again by the artist Ann Tent. I will add it to the New Scene 2023 Spotify playlist. You can hear all of my recommendations there. as well as our guests. I'm back next week with a new episode and a new guest. So thanks everybody for listening, and until next time.